Welcome back to Into the Vale. I just wanted to share something special with you. This cemetery is in old downtown Little Rock. It is not quite 200 years old. We had highbrow politicians, slaves, Civil War soldiers, paupers, every kind buried in here, which is fantastic. Once upon a time, it was considered country up where this is. And I thought we would take a walk and see if anything struck us. It closes here in just a little under an hour for us, so we won't be able to explore it at night. But knowing the way things can surface, I thought it might be interesting to see if we received any anomalies or anything while we were out here. Let's walk. Friend.
Yeah, this seems to be the resident cemetery cat.
You know them all, don't you?
He's guarding the spirits.
It's a beautiful cemetery. I haven't seen one of this age since we were probably in Charleston, South Carolina last, as far as the size and the age both. And it may have been a piece older, but still just gorgeous.
I had a question. Well, you've done a lot of house cleansings and paranormal investigations into things like that. And what would be some of the different things in the way of how would you determine what is a residual haunting or what's an active haunting, or what might be something more malevolent or something that people could kind of use as a gauge to determine?
In my experience, for me, residual energies are often left more in, we're very patterned in our behavior. We invest a lot of energy and emotion into certain activities. When an energy is in the mood to exist, it seems to follow a specific pattern of activity. It might be seeing an apparition walking through in a specific path consistently. Hauntings oftentimes will involve objects being moved, things disappearing, reappearing, trying to get attention. They seem to be energies that are much more aware of their existence in or overlapping our world. As far as malevolence go, a lot of times those doors take a special kind of work. It can be, a lot of people may have built a house on, say, Native American ground, and they're protecting that ground, and obstructions to waterways, to the earth. It's something that's fiercely protected, and it isn't that those souls are necessarily evil, but a lot of their activity can be very aggressive in trying to push out anything that they feel doesn't belong. Truly malevolent energies, even demonic energies, are going to be much more attacking. People will report scratches, bruises, night terrors or sleep paralysis, There again, each one's different. A lot of times if there's been an emotional, we talk about the history of this place or the history of this area. And if you consider, say, Civil War enactments, I think anything that's emotionally charged is going to leave an impression in the place that it happens. So when we meet places where something violent has occurred, particularly, you have to realize, especially if there's a group of people involved, there's a ton of emotion that goes into that event. Some of them might be considered ghosts or haunts, paints. That's pretty. But a lot of times it's just that part of their experience that's residual, not necessarily their entire being. Let's see what's going on up here. That's interesting. Quartz and quartz. Sandstone. Money. More quartz. And a cat. Oh, that's awesome. So this is... Ooh, I just got the goosebumps. Body, Indian wife of John Ross, chief of the Cherokee tribe, died in Little Rock, 1839. Apparently she's still well remembered. Then, this is Elizabeth Ross, wife of John Ross.
Apparently he was married twice.
Yeah.
Probably widowed once.
But the 1st of February, no. Age isn't given, but they died the same day.
That's a good story to look up and find out.
That's really interesting. I am going to have to, but I have got the chills up and down my arm. And what's interesting is this is native, so maybe in that time they could have both. Maybe there was an attack and
What's your impression?
It's actually very peaceful out here. There are certain areas that I'll catch glimpses out of the corner of my eye and it feels like I'm seeing movement. There's a lot of statue and a lot of there's an angel statue that keeps catching my eye up here. I would love to catch some EVP at least out here, or we might be able to pick up energy blurbs in the video.
Well, there was a young one.
I think a person could walk for hours out here just absorbing the beauty. It's just a shame that we don't invest the time and energy into our markers anymore. Like to walk over to this corner. If I can find a way through without being disrespectful. That was always something that bothered me even when I was young. There's an old name around here, Brody. Family of military people. Thank you for your service. Mercy. Until I walked right here in front of this centerpiece.
Well, so on the topic of people having what they think might be a haunting in their house, what would be some advice that you would give them to kind of, combat that energy if they think there's something in their space?
There's a few different things that can be done. On the simpler side, a house cleansing, you can take lemon oil to your doorways, windowsills. The first thing I would recommend is finding a bundle of white sage and cleansing the house, or especially the space that the activity exists. And then in going back, you can take lemon oil, go over the doorways, go over the windowsills. A lot of it really depends on the situation. My recommendation for anything that's violent or threatening would be to, call an expert, reach out to someone that does know how to deal with these things, because sometimes if you're dabbling and you really don't know, it can open a bigger door, create a bigger threat. Safety first. If it doesn't seem dangerous, if it seems benign, you can always reach out to an expert in that. You can also ask that energy to leave. If it doesn't, then you may need more help. There's a certain vibration that sometimes they need in order to understand, that they're not welcome.
Well, that's just it. A doorway isn't prejudiced. Good things can come through it. Bad things can come through it.
And some energies just pass through. If a house or a building, a place, is built or placed where historical activities, other buildings, native, slave. There's a lot of emotion in a number of events. And if your structure or your space is somewhere where these things happen, oftentimes those energies are just passing through as part of that ground. They're not necessarily attached to you. But there again, sometimes it takes someone stronger or more adept to really understand what's going on. I'm just thinking if I've missed anything.
Sometimes residual energy can rub off on people without any indication that they were dabbling or searching anything out. It's just by proxy of being in that space.
I've met a number of young people, especially, that dabbled with, say for example, Ouija boards, or certain things that they thought were fun or magical or whatever, and didn't realize that they may have invited or given opportunity for that to be used as a door. When that happens, it can get rough, depending on what decides to walk through that. And I know that most of them that I've met felt very alone, because they didn't know how to explain what they'd done. They felt guilty, or they felt at least some level of shame. Some of them didn't even realize that activity had caused that. So I certainly don't recommend dabbling or playing with anything that there is not a great understanding for. There's too much hype in television, and I think it's very dangerous. If you notice your child or someone else's child, if their behavior changes, if anyone's remotely empathic, a lot of times they'll absorb or integrate some of that energy into their own behavior, and not even always realize until it's almost too late that it's attached to them. It doesn't mean they're possessed. It doesn't mean that, they're evil or they're wrong. It's just a matter of being able to cleanse their field and make sure that auric energy that's around them is pure and strong again.
It's kind of like swimming in a muddy pond or muddy puddle. It tends to rub off on what it's touching.
Well, most of these energies feed off of emotion too. You know, they don't eat food like we do, but they do eat energy. And negative needs negative energy to feed, and sometimes it'll cause... I know we had one house that we lived in, and the energy that was there, and it took us a little while to realize what was going on, but the energy that was there was very angry. And we went through a short spell where things would upset us that we'd never dealt with before. Things, you know, we don't argue like that. But just, it seemed like events would occur and we would have a reaction that was abnormal to us. But once we figured out that the house did have an energy there and that it was playing this to create that vibe, you know, it took some doing, but we were able to defend ourselves properly against it, cleanse the house, and go through the proper measures. But sometimes it can be a little while before you realize, you know, some of them are pretty sneaky, and it can be dangerous. It can tear your family apart. It can try to scare your children. Some children are especially sensitive. You might have 3 kids, and you might have one out of those 3 that seems to be the target. Well, that may be the one that's more emotional than the others, or it may be the one that's more empathic than the others, more sensitive all the way around, more gifted. A lot of psychics, a lot of mediums that I know, they've gone through a lot of attack as children before they realized their own gifts, before they realized, you know, how to gain strength in who they were. So if anybody knows any children that are suffering, please reach out to me. If there's anything I can do to help, I am absolutely, or adults, it doesn't just have to be children, but we have to take care of the babies. And we have to pay attention to what's going on, even in the unseen world. Truly never seen anything like this in my life.